There are 5 lies that Sunrun commonly tells its customers, and in this video, I'm going to uncover these 5 lies and reveal the truth behind them. Now, the first and most common lie which I hear Sunrun reps tell customers is that they should lease their solar panel systems as opposed to purchasing them, because this option will save them the most amount of money. And this is something that I've been debunking for customers forever. If you're in the process of shopping for solar, you've probably learned by now that there are 2 common ways that you can purchase solar from your home when working with a contractor. You can either purchase the system directly under an ownership agreement where you agree on a fixed price and either pay the contractor cash up front or use financing, or you can lease the system from the contractor, a deal in which the contractor installs the solar panels in your house, they retain ownership of all the parts and equipment, and then you make monthly payments to them for the duration of the agreed term. Now you might be thinking, well, why would a solar contractor ever want to lease a solar panel system to homeowners? I mean, it's a deal in which they don't make any money up front, and since it's their equipment, they're the ones that are responsible for the installation, the maintenance, the monitoring, and the repairs. But here's the reality which nobody in the solar industry will tell you. Solar companies make way more money when they lease you the solar panel systems as opposed to selling them. And they're way more easy for the solar company to sell. To give you an example of why solar companies like Sunrun make way more money when they lease you solar panels as opposed to selling them, and why so many homeowners get screwed over in the process, let's say as an easy example that you have a homeowner in California who's shopping for solar panel systems to offset the $300 power bill. So they call out a solar company to their property to bid them on a system, and when the solar company comes out, they determine that to offset the homeowner's annual electrical usage, they would need to install a 10 kilowatt system consisting of 25 400 watt solar panels, which is a fairly normal system size. The first option the company has would be to sell the homeowner the system at a cash price, which may come out in the neighborhood of $30,000 and include a complete installation and 25-year warranty servicing package. Now, the homeowner's only in for a little over $20,000 after they claim the solar federal tax credit, and the solar company revenues $30,000. Obviously, the profit is much smaller on that. And so that is one way for the solar company to do business. But if they're able to convince the homeowner to lease the solar panel system instead of buying it, they can actually make a whole lot more money. Let's say that instead they approach the homeowner and say, hey, look, I'll install these 25 panels on your roof for you and take care of the maintenance and the servicing, and you can pay me a low cost of only $150 a month and rent the panels from me for a period of 20 years. Now, to account for inflation, the payment would have to go up 2.9% each year, but don't worry, you'll always be saving money and have no debt to your name, says the company. Now, very little homeowners will take the time to do the math on how much they'll actually spend over the term, but if you account for that 2.9% increase in the monthly payment at the end of each year, the solar company will now revenue just over $45,000 for that same exact solar system, and they can still take the functional equipment back at the end of the 20 or 25-year term. But that's not where it ends. Since the solar lease does not involve the homeowner purchasing the solar equipment, it is actually the solar lease company that gets to claim the 30% solar federal tax credit, along with any state tax credits that may apply, further increasing their profits. And then also, as of 2024, many solar installers actually prefer leasing the solar systems because they can receive a new 10% domestic content tax credit, which is a tax benefit given to companies that install commercially owned systems. But here's the kicker. They're not passing those savings on to you. The customer never sees any of it. And here's the thing, many solar contractors and salespeople know that when homeowners are evaluating solar quotes, they're only looking at that day one monthly payment and really judging the quality of the deal based off of that number alone. And because of that, Sunrun has learned that they can make a lot more money selling these leases with massive 2, 3, even 4% annual escalators, which may not seem like a big deal up front, but can eventually push those monthly payments to levels the homeowner never expected. Yes, financing rates are high today, but if you can see yourself paying off a potential loan in under 5 to 10 years, and especially if you qualify for the tax credits to reduce your financial burden, owning this system will almost always be in your best interest. Now, the next common lie which Sunrun will often tell their customers is that leasing is a better option than financing because they will, quote, maintain your solar panel system for you over the course of 20 or 25 years. Therefore, they claim that leasing is a much better deal than owning the system, but the reality is that could not be farther from the truth. What Sunrun is referring to when they use the word maintain is that in the event of a system failure, such as an inverter going down, a panel degrading more than average, or your battery not working properly, they would come out and fix it for you. And that is correct, and it's great. But what you guys have to realize is that if you purchase a system from a solar contractor and that solar contractor has offered you a warranty package, which includes a labor warranty, and they're still around when you need to use it, they would be giving you the same exact maintenance package that Sunrun would. And also, you guys should understand and be pleased to hear that when you invest into a solar panel system for your home, there's very little maintenance and upkeep required to keep the system producing at a high level. Unlike cars and a lot of machinery, solar panel systems do not have any moving parts or pieces, so there are no annual service calls required to keep your system running well. Aside from 1 to 2 solar panel cleanings, which I generally recommend solar homeowners invest into, and by the way, Sunrun will not do this service for you under the maintenance package, which they try to sell homeowners on. Do not expect any additional value to come from Sunrun's maintenance package. 95% of solar installers which you speak to will not offer any kind of solar panel cleaning package. However, on the bright side, it's a fairly quick and easy process. So as long as you live in a big metropolitan area, you should be able to find a few companies who could clean your solar panels for you as low as $5 to $10 per panel, or you could just do it yourself. And as I mentioned earlier, you guys should be happy to hear that even if you purchase and own your solar panel system directly from a contractor, most of the time you'll have a comprehensive warranty package, which will cover things such as roof penetrations and leaking, workmanship, and labor. Additionally, you'll have individual warranties through the manufacturers on all of the equipment that you purchase. So understand that even once you paid the system off and you own it outright, that does not mean that you're just off on your own now. As long as your solar contractor is around, they'll cover most of the maintenance requests at no cost to you, as long as that service falls under warranty. And by the way, guys, if you're in the process of shopping for solar for your home and you've gotten a quote from Sunrun or another leasing company which sounded attractive, but you weren't completely sure if it was the best option for you and your house, and you would like to get a quote for owning this system, whether paying cash or financing it, if you happen to live in a state which we service, which is shown on our website, I'd be happy to speak with you for 20-30 minutes and then put together a comparison quote for you and your project. And so that way you can compare it against what you already have and see if in fact you might be getting misled from Sunrun. Now, the next common lie that Sunrun tells their customers is that if you lease your solar panel system and sell your house in the future, it will be a very easy process to sell that house and then transfer the payments to another homeowner. And it can, in fact, increase the value of your home by having that leased Sunrun system on the roof. But it's actually the opposite. Here's the reality, guys. While it is true that Sunrun allows you to transfer the lease to a new homeowner, this isn't as simple or desirable as they make it seem. In fact, many home buyers are actually deterred from solar leases. You have to realize that just under 5% of all homes in America have solar. And so just because you and I see the value in solar doesn't mean that everybody's bought in. Some people don't like solar for aesthetic reasons. Others don't believe in the idea of clean energy, but mostly many people do not want to take over a 20 to 25 year lease agreement, especially in the latter half of the agreement where those escalators can make that monthly payment for the system higher than it otherwise would be to just purchase electricity directly from the utility company. So while Sunrun wants you to believe that leasing makes your home more attractive when selling, the truth is that it could be a big turnoff to potential buyers. Just ask any real estate agent in places like California, where it's very common for agents to represent buyers who are selling their houses with the stipulation that that new homeowner takes over the lease. The agents hate it, and actually sometimes it causes them to have to lower the value of the house because of it. Now, if you're thinking, well, all right, but I'll just pay the system off before we sell the house, and then I'll move those panels with me, and that'll solve my issues. But that often will not be in your best interest. You see, one of the shadiest things that a company like Sunrun does is that they'll often massively inflate the buyout price for the system. And this actually leads us to the next lie, which they tell their customers, which is that they can save a lot of money down the road by just paying off their system. You guys have to realize that they want you to keep making monthly payments for as long as possible, especially since those payments increase over time with the annual escalators. In some cases, the buyout price can actually be inflated so much that it's not worth it, especially when you realize that the market value for the system is much lower than what they're selling for. And one of the reasons that they do this is because, as a reminder, they're the ones that are claiming that 30% tax credit due for your system. So they want that credit as high as possible. And the way that they can do that is by making what's called the fair market price very high during the contracting process. And that inflated price benefits them, not you. So while they might try to sell you on the idea that leasing is a simple way to avoid the upfront cost, the long-term financial impact is much worse than owning that system outright. Whereas when you own the system, you're in control. You're not locked into escalating payments, and you are building equity in something that adds value to your house, not something that could cause potential buyers to walk away. And if buyers won't buy the house with the panels if you own that system, no worries. You can have your contractor move those panels to your next property, patch up the roof, and that solves that issue. Now, the next common lie which Sunrun very often tells its customers is that they should lease their solar panel systems instead of financing, because if you have a loan on your solar panel system as opposed to the PPA, there will be more liens on your system. And that's a flat out incorrect statement. What you guys need to understand is that when you enter into a power purchase agreement or PPA with Sunrun, what a lot of people don't realize is that once you sign that agreement, Sunrun will file what's called a UCC1 financing statement against your property. Now, technically speaking, this isn't classified as a lien, but it serves a very similar purpose. It basically gives Sunrun a legal interest in the solar panel system that is installed on your house. So if you ever stop making payments or default on the agreement, they now have legal recourse to go after the system, or in some cases, even create complications around your property title. And here's the part which nobody really tells you. Because that UCC1 filing is tied to your property, it can sometimes show up on title searches when you go to sell or refinance your house. So while it's not considered a traditional lien like a mortgage or a tax lien, it can still raise red flags with lenders or potential buyers, especially if they don't understand what it is. So again, this is just another example of how leasing or signing a PPA can come with strings attached that most homeowners aren't made fully aware of up front. And that's why it's so important to really understand the fine print before signing anything, especially with a big company like Sunrun. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, what if I finance the solar panel system instead of leasing it? Does that mean I still have a UCC1 filed against my property? And the answer is yes, but it's a little different and way less concerning. When you finance the solar panel system through a loan, the lender may also file a UCC1 financing statement, but in that case, it's secured to the loan, specifically to the solar equipment, not your actual property. So think about it kind of like when you finance a car. The lender technically has interest in the vehicle until it is paid off, and it's the same idea here. The key difference is that you still own the system. And then once that loan is paid off, that UCC1 filing is released and it goes away. It doesn't hang over your home indefinitely like it does with a long-term lease or PPA. And more importantly, because you own the system, you are building equity in something that actually adds value to your home rather than locking yourself into a third-party agreement, which could complicate things down the road. So yes, a UCC1 might still be filed, but it is much cleaner and it doesn't come with the same kind of baggage that you get when you lease or PPA. Now, if you just purchase the system with cash, you can avoid a lot of this, but there are still some things that you should be aware of. This will vary a lot state by state, but at least where I live here in Florida, what it would look like when you go under contract with the solar contractor or any contractor for that matter, is that when there's a contract over $2,500 in value, the property owner is required to file a document called a Notice of Commencement, NOC, with the County Clerk of Court. This is actually a requirement from the state of Florida before the contractor can start work. And it really acts as a safeguard for businesses to ensure that they get paid when the work is completed. A notice of commencement is not a lien, but instead something that puts everybody on notice that work is being performed at the property. It also opens the door for contractors or subcontractors to later file a mechanics lien if they are not paid. Now, once the solar system is fully installed and paid in full, for example, with a cash deal, the contractor will provide a release of lien, and that's it. And homeowners should understand that this is actually something that's required by the state and is only there to provide protection for businesses, just to make sure that they're not left hanging by customers who decide not to pay once the construction is completed. Now, this information provided will help you understand some common things to watch out for when talking to Sunrun Solar, but if you are in the process of shopping for your home, you also really need to make sure that you understand the common mistakes that first-time solar homeowners make when going solar. So make sure you check out my video going over the 7 common mistakes which first-time solar homeowners make when going solar, which will pop up on the screen now. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.